All right, we've officially got word LaNorris Sellers will not be playing tomorrow against Akron. That means Robbie Ashford, your time to shine. What can we expect from QB2? Locked on Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. It is a Friday evening happy hour edition of the show, and with good reason. We have a fun show today. We're going to talk about the Akron game that is tomorrow night in Willie B, give our scores, previews, prediction, all that good stuff. It'll be a quick one, but a fun one. Now, that being said, I want to say thank you very much to our everyday listeners for making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. So make sure you go check us out on all platforms, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, which is in like 2 days, all FanDuel customers can bet $5, get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, let's get started with the show. And news that broke about 30 minutes ago. I'm recording this around 7 o'clock on Friday night. Late Friday news dump, pretty typical. And good news. Like this is, we haven't recorded since Beamer had his press conference saying that they would need LaNorris Sellers to play. And I'm still in shock that he even said that, even if it was coach speak. But this is the right move. And for a number of reasons. Like, LaNorris Sellers does not need to be at any further risk of injury, especially against Akron. We're going to get into how bad Akron is. Akron's awful, guys. It's awful. This is not a situation where we're going to be like, oh, like any given Saturday, or like the Old Dominion game wasn't that far long ago. Like, whatever. Akron's awful. They are awful. So you should be able to get a win, and a convincing win, to be honest, without LaNorris Sellers. Now, what that means for LaNorris Sellers, that means he's going to sit this game, and then you get a week off, and then you get that 3-week gauntlet. So he should be well rested going into that. I said on the show on Tuesday, the risk was so much bigger than the reward for him to play. And it also kind of just comes down to the fact that you should be able to beat this team with a backup quarterback. And I also personally, and maybe this is the petty side of me that's still jaded and angry about Saturday, I would like to see Robbie Ashford have some sort of semblance of the offense under his command. It's been beaten into the ground. I'm not trying to drum up how awful Saturday was, but we started the second half, and you go to halftime, and South Carolina had over 280 yards of offense. They had chunk plays. They had, drives. Like they were firing on most of the cylinders. They came out in the third quarter, and Robbie Ashford had to start. And it wasn't even, I'm not even pinning any of the blame on Ashford. It wasn't like he made a bunch of bad throws or had bad decisions. They threw the ball 4 times in the second half, and it became the most conservative, weird offense and an offensive play calling in that moment. And obviously, you go on to gain 1 total yard in the third quarter and score 0 points, and LSU comes back to win. Like, you can't go into a hole for 60 minutes just because you don't have your quarterback. And if we're being honest, guys, I think LaNorris Sellers is great. I think his upside is phenomenal. He's going to be a great college quarterback. It's not like he's lit the world on fire through his first 3 games. So you have a former starting veteran quarterback in Robbie Ashford. I was shocked to see the decision that was made, which is a clear-cut decision to not run the same offense with Robbie against LSU. Now, maybe it's because they weren't expecting it. They didn't plan for it. I don't know. Or maybe it's because it was LSU and they posed bigger problems and threats on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not sure. You will have none of that this weekend. I jokingly said this on the Tuesday show. It was barely a joke. You and I, me and you right now through the screen, we should be playing on Saturday. Like, we should get playing time. Everyone should play. The numbers are so bad, and it still doesn't even do it justice how bad Akron is. Akron has had, since 2018, They have not won more than 2 games in any season since 2018. That's when they won 4. We all remember that year for the Akron Zips. They have played since 2018. They have played 9 Power 4 or Power 5 opponents in the same situation they're playing South Carolina in. They're 0-9, and they have lost those games by an average of 40 points per game. I believe so. Only one was within 32 points. It was a 2-point loss to Indiana. 8 of the other 9 losses were by at least 32 points. 4 were by 50-plus points. This is a get-right game for South Carolina. First thing you want out of this game, no injuries. Second thing you want, put on a effing show. Like this should be a feel-good moment of the week, especially after what happened a week ago. Rally the troops. Go put it on a team that cannot compete with you, does not have anywhere close to the same athletes as you have, and show, everyone that last week wasn't a fluke. You can bounce back, and like the big picture, everything's still in front of you because a lot of people didn't think they were going to beat LSU anyway. There's still a lot of targets left on this schedule that South Carolina can take aim at. And it sucks that it happened on Saturday, but obviously it's time to move on. And you're just in a really good spot. Like listen, everyone plays cupcakes. Everyone plays cupcakes. But Akron is like, I don't even know how to mini cupcakes. That's not the best example I could give. I mean, like I'm trying to think of the best example in here. They are a disposable team in the landscape of college football that is basically passed around to Power 4, Power 5 teams, and play 3 of those a year because you get around $4 to $5 million in total for scheduling those games, and it feeds an entire athletic department for like a year. But they do not belong in the same field as you, and we all remember the ODU game. Sky was falling. It looked awful. This cannot be that. I'm not worried at all that it will be, but this cannot be that. All right. So what to expect from Robbie? Listen, we were told all fall, like leading up with fall camp and leading up to the season, that the race hadn't necessarily been won and they were still competing for the job. And Robbie Ashford is a veteran starting quarterback in this league. I feel like people forget that. Side note, one of the reasons, again, I was still so shocked they didn't do more with him on offense. His career best game as a QB was against LSU 2 years ago. He threw for like 330 yards. These are some of the numbers that Robbie has put up in 2022 when he was the primary starter for Auburn. Nothing crazy. I think it was 2,300 total yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Averaged around 200 yards a game. These are all like, he should be a serviceable quarterback. And what you really want is not him just filling in the role for a week and being average. Like he should shine in this moment. He should absolutely shine in this moment. All right, going over his stats when he was a starter, you got to keep in mind too that Auburn team was awful. Like they were awful. They started a trend that year where they had 5 straight games against Power 5 opponents where they didn't throw for over 100 yards. It's just almost impossible to do. But in the middle of the season, he strung together some like really good games against LSU, 337, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Georgia was tough. Ole Miss, Arkansas, 285 yards, over 70% completion. He's not a guy that's going to be super efficient. He's not going to drop back and just absolutely dice you up. But he is a really, really good athlete. He's going to make plenty of plays with his legs. And again, let's talk about the team he's going up against. Let's actually just get into what you can expect on Saturday. Like I said, it'll be, you guys know as much as we need to know about Robbie Ashford. These are Akron's numbers currently, averaging 18 points a game, allowing 40.3. Not great. Giving up over 5 yards per carry. Now, this is something I do want to get into in terms of like what the offense should look like. giving up over 6 yards per play. Let's see here. Why is this so difficult to read? The total yardage and everything, like they're not miserable on defense, but giving up 40 points a game is beyond bad. They have also allowed over 400 yards twice. Their only win on the season against Colgate, right? They played Ohio State, they played Rutgers. They lost both those games by a ton. They don't have an identity necessarily. It's like they're not going to be a pound the football, going to try to run it. They're not like a spread offense. They have very little identity as to who they are. And there's a reason why you go 2-10 every single year. But the defense especially is really, really bad. Like the defense especially is really, really bad. They have allowed 7 total touchdowns, which is in the bottom third of the country. They are allowing, like I said, over 5 yards a carry, nearly 175 yards per game. So this should be a game where like the RPOs that we were expecting to see throughout the start of the year with Rocket and LaNorris, or Rocket and Robbie, all of that should be on display. Now, and again, this does not need to be a get right game for one specific segment of this team or offense. Like they ran the football tremendously last week against LSU, like ran it down their throats. You still need to figure out a way, get Rocket his yards, get some more crisp, like offensive plays where you're starting to feel a little bit more confidence before you go into the bye week and get into that gauntlet. But like from the blocking schemes and making sure we're all on the same page, and like they should mesh up front. We're a month into the season, right? So how do you figure out a way to iron out some of the small details that, you know, South Carolina has struggled with at times, whether it be penalties or whether it be pre-snap penalties or anything like that? This is it's served on a silver platter, man. I can't say it enough. So Akron comes down to South Carolina. I believe they came down here one other time for not against USC, but who was it against? They played Kentucky 2 years ago, lost 35-3, and like I said, like there's not an offensive identity. The defense has been really, really bad, especially against the run. To be fair, they have played 2, Power 5 opponents or Power 4 opponents, both of whom are could be ranked. But again, the offense should not change drastically just because you have a different name on the back of the jersey. This cannot be a game where you have 21 rush attempts for however many yards. That defensive line should eat again, without question. Let me see here. They've already so Akron actually does have they've allowed 9 sacks already. They allowed 9 sacks in 3 games. The defensive line should eat. The secondary will probably force multiple turnovers. But again, that whole allowing 40 points per game defensively and getting boat race every time you're in the situation, they haven't been within double digits of their offensive points per game in comparison to their points allowed per game. I'm scrolling through it right now. They have not. Oh my God. 2018, the magical year they went 4-8. That's the last time they finished a season where their offensive points per game was within single digits of the total points allowed from their defense. Basically, they were getting outscored by double digits on average the entire season. And that year, it was 9. It was 9. That's the only reason they didn't reach double digits. Multiple years where you're like you see right now, allowing 40, scoring 18. That is a standard of this program. Anyway, I've slandered Akron enough. There's only so much you can say. What do I want to see from this weekend? I want to see, what I just said. I want to see multiple turnovers. I want to see. It's unrealistic to say 0 penalties. Would love to see less than 3. Go out there and execute. Get out there and execute and be take the next step in terms of growth and maturity from a whole team standpoint. And that's one way to do it. Love to see Juju McDowell get involved. Would love to see some sort of consistency in the receivers and in the passing game. I don't even care if I don't want to see just one person with like a chunk of the yardage. Would love to see multiple guys get distributed the football. Mazio have 2 or 3 catches, right? Like maybe Harbor gets involved, maybe he doesn't. But I would like to see more people involved in the passing game than just 4 players caught a pass and it was very, very limited in the box score. Get the tight ends involved. Michael Smith, like start working on the things that you're going to need when you get into the actual meat of the schedule, because somehow they haven't even reached that yet. Now, as far as a preview and prediction goes, I don't expect Akron to score. I really don't. I think, listen, Ohio State is a phenomenal team. They have probably the most talented roster in the entire country, including Georgia. They allowed 6 points. There's no way they should score over 10. I would go out there and send a message and prove a point and bounce back from last week. Pitch a shutout at night. Willie B. I'm just going to tell you right now, our friends at FanDuel are going to be seeing me tomorrow with some money, because the line is 27.5 before with Sellers. I don't think that it's gone down, which I'm sure it will at some point. But if it's only dropped to 26, which is really, really surprising. But I like that. I like the first half line, which is South Carolina South Carolina to cover 16 points in the first half. You saw them get off to a quick start last week. That's what this offense is capable of doing. And you also look on the other sideline, and Akron is averaging 3 points per game in the first half so far this season. It should be a mismatch and lopsided from jump. So as far as betting goes, I love both those. The final score, I will say South Carolina gets in the 40s, and I'll say South Carolina wins 44-10. I feel like that's about right. Again, I know you got a backup quarterback, but it wasn't like Sellers was lighting the world on fire, especially on the stat sheet necessarily. He had a great game against LSU. When he comes back, we're still going to work on some situational awareness and third downs and stuff like that. But that is my prediction, 44-10. And I think it'll be a good night. I think it'll be a great night. It will not be like Old Dominion. And they will move on the end of the month of September 3-1. So love to see it. All right, that is going to be all for tonight's show. Like I said, it was going to be a quick one because we had the breaking news that happened late Friday evening. Pretty good slate of football on tomorrow. We will be back probably Sunday morning. I don't think we'll have an emergency pod like we did last week against LSU, but make sure you're checking that out. Make sure, if you have not already done that or done so, subscribe. I don't know what the kids are saying. Like, subscribe, smash that like button, y'all. It only helps the show grow and give us more resources to do more stuff in the future. So I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your Friday night. Be safe. Looking at you, Gamecock Will. Don't be acting crazy down there in 5 points. And we'll be back on Sunday. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. If you're going to the game, have fun. Send us some pics. If you're going to the game, I'm still in Atlanta, but if you're down there, send some pics of the game day atmosphere or from your seats or whatever to our Twitter account, Locked On SC, and we'll talk about it on the show. So, all right, y'all. We'll see you on Sunday.